All right, let's be honest. This is definitely 100% the worst lighting I've ever had so far. This room is weird. I guess it's for the vibes. I don't know. I'm at a space in town, so sorry about that. All right. So I think this is the last one. I did a lot of work on on developing the prompt. Um, a document and building it out into a way that I like to get it to as thorough as possible without starting to overbuild. And really, in a previous video, I talked about you really want to get to the end state of the product. So you want to understand what the product should look like and how it should function. And then once you have that, you're essentially filling in the blanks a little bit. You're trying to say, if I know that I want to get it to this end state, what are the steps I need to get through from a product standpoint to end up there so that the user has the experience that I envisioned in my head? Because at that point, you can take your product to a potential user and then start testing it out and seeing if the insights and the assumptions and the what's it called, educated guesses that you made are valid or invalid, or that they'll pay for them or they won't pay for them. But it all starts with like getting those ideas out of your head. And so is the type of work that I did. So let's go through the documents that I've added. Okay. So I think you all saw this before, but I went to ChatGPT. I also have another video on, using ChatGPT kind of as your, um, the expert in your pocket that knows all information. Use it as your consultant. And so you already saw that I did a bunch of research on the cost of ineffective reference checks. You also probably saw that I developed a reference checking prompt for the AI because, again, you're using Bolt, which is AI managed, right? It's an AI based coding application. That I use ChatGPT here to help with the research. I also help use ChatGPT to help with these other pieces as well. Using different models, I play with either one. I really don't understand the differences between O1 and O3. And O1, I think they did away with O1 mini, but O3 mini and O3 high, I don't understand the differences. So usually I just go between um, kind of using the same line of thinking and just seeing which one gets the best prompt. That's all I do. So I'm using that, and then I'm going to use a voice from 11 Labs, and then I'm going to use a phone number from Twilio. So all of these things have to link together. So this is what I'm going to feed into 11 Labs, but I used for ChatGPT. And so this actually won't be in Bolt at all. Bolt won't even touch this. This will just be 11 Labs so far. So then I also wanted to have a job creation. So this is, I'm not sure how I want to implement this, but this is basically if I wanted it to be voice focused, I could also, instead of having an employer go in and copy and paste a job description, I could have them talk through a job description and create it from there. But even more so, I could even ask them, okay, talk to this AI and tell it the nuances of the job, because there are things in the job description that you won't necessarily say because it's a one page, you want people to read it. However, there are going to be nuances to the job, nuances to your culture, how you like to see someone work, things like that, that will help us in evaluating a candidate score. And so by combining the job description and this conversation that an employer can have with an AI, we can kind of better round out what we're looking for from the references, if that makes sense. And it'll help create better questions. It'll help create better grading rubrics and matrices or matrices. And so this is something that I'll probably use later, this job creation prompt. So, but just to let you know, that's what that is. And then here, so we came up with a dimensions of evaluation. We're going to give this is going to be the knowledge base to the OpenAI API. So it's going to understand like how we're going to map questions, things like that. It needs to know how to do text analysis, to use neural linguistic programming, to figure out like how things, if words go together that are negative, how to place them. So even if someone is saying it positively, it might be able to pull out, hey, like this is a negative sentiment. So we're going to have it do that. We're also going to have it build like how it scores thing, it needs to kind of go through the transcription. Since I'm not going to do the real-time audio analysis because that costs more, I'm just going to basically have a question and answer transcription that I'm going to load it into this OpenAI API. And so, and that'll be done with 11 Labs, by the way. And so it'll have these outputs. Okay, so that's just the knowledge base. Then you have to come through and create the prompt. So this is what if the knowledge base is what it's pulling from as its how should I put this, as its experience and wisdom, kind of treat a knowledge base like that, like it's experience and wisdom that the AI is pulling from. This right here is going to tell you exactly how to use your experience and wisdom along with the other aspects of the application to pull out the information that we really need. So that's what this is going to be. Okay. So hopefully that all makes sense. Where am I at on time? Gosh, that was 5 minutes. Whew. I'm trying to tell y'all, if you want to build it right and you want to be commercial ready to like get design tests and beta testers or design partners and beta testers, you have to like do this level. It's the thing that's going to make the most sense. And so here I've done a lot of writing. So at this point, this prompt doc is 1,600 words. Okay. So essentially, what I wrote in is you all already saw this part, um, but I've started adding in little color into like open positions. For instance, like I added that no, added a lot to the candidate. So we already went through the candidate ID, but now we want to say that when a user clicks on the candidate, in the candidate page, a modal should open with the candidate's information, the references that have been made on their behalf, and the compiled overall candidate store. The reason I put that in there is because I want someone to see not just on what I had written before is like, oh, when they go to the candidate screen, it'll be grouped by the job openings that the candidate applied for, and it'll also have sorted by the candidate score, right? However, what if someone wants to see like more details in the candidate score and also wants to see the references? So what I'll do is make it so that it's a card. So when they click on the candidate, yes, it has a candidate score if they want to make a quick decision, but they want to dig deeper, it'll open up a card that has all the information that I just mentioned, plus it'll have the individual references and their scores, so that when they hover over it, where did I put that? Oh, reveal a deeper look and reveal their top strength and their top weakness. Okay, so when they hover on top of it right here, they will see a pop-up overlay of the broken down scores across the dimensions of evaluation. Like I said over here, in the analysis, we're going to have dimensions and they all need to have the same names, right? So this is called dimension scores. In the prompts, it's called dimension scores. It's all like based on the exact same like conversation of we're just going to call it dimensions. So it knows that it needs to show up all of these things without the weights when someone hovers over top of each of the references so they can see it deeper. So as they're hovering, and the reason that I wanted to do that is because this line right here, this will help the user see if there's a trend of great or poor performance across a specific dimension. So if I go to the dimension scores, you might notice that reliability, even though it's only 15% of the composite weight, he might like the candidate might get a 0 in reliability across every single one of the references. Like maybe they're late or something just that doesn't sit right with what we're evaluating on, and we would rather not have that score. So or the person, the employer, might not want to have that score even if all the other scores are 100. If reliability is 0, excuse me, the candidate might actually have a high uh, composite score, a high overall score. However, they'll have a 0 reliability, and if they are working in a hospital, that is a non-starter. They would probably rather someone have a low technical or job specific skills over a low reliability score. So you have to kind of like make sure that as you're building out these things, you have to kind of think through how the person would experience it. And so being able to spot trends will be very, very easy to do if I build it out this way. Okay, where's my time at? 9 minutes. Holy crap, this is going to be long. Okay, I'm going to stop there and start a new video, and then I'll just kind of mash the videos together. Okay, I'm just going to do a continuation. Uh, so this is, I'm going to try and make this, 20 minutes, this video, because I really want to get into like the Bolt side of things. It's just, it's got to be deal. Like I was looking at some VCs talk about like how they're running the prompts and this whole thing about vibe coding, which I love, by the way. That's how I do it. But you can still tell at the very beginning when they are looking at things, they are kind of looking at it through something that's going to get them through it faster. But by breaking it down into this level of detail, it makes it easier. Now, I wouldn't call this a PRD, by the way, but it's probably the PRD, it's probably the version of PRD that is for this type of coding. So I don't know what that term would be. Someone needs to come up with it, but essentially this is what we're doing. So all of these things, I created another modal in here that actually I realized that I didn't have a modal in the past videos to add a candidate. So I created a button that would add a candidate, and to simplify how it should go. You could do it one way. You could do it where they click a button and they put a name in and then it saves it and then they have to like link it to a job. You could do it that they put the position, they put the candidate's name in and then automatically link it. The way that we decided to do it on this one was I wanted to start with the job first, and you'll see why. Because if they select the job to add a candidate, then they can go to the next page. On the next page, they can add their first candidate, but then they can go through and add multiple candidates underneath that and then click save. And that saves all of the candidates to the same job versus doing it the other way where you start with the candidates first. You might want to split jobs. You might want to do a bunch of other things. And so it's a lot easier for the employer if they were to go from it from this perspective. And so this is the modal where that's going to come into play. Um, and then on the second page of the added candidate, I also said that every candidate gets a unique ID. Anytime a candidate saves, check the candidate database to see if there's a matching candidate. That's just to limit the data because we don't want to have duplicates in there. Because later on, if we want to, let's say, open this up for, let's say we wanted to do a candidate side of a product where candidates can preemptively upload, like go ahead and do their references. And then there's like a candidate database. So anytime that a candidate applies to a company, they can just put like their candidate link to reference one, and then it will automatically, like when the employer clicks on that link, it will then have something like all of the references, a composite score against the dimensions that I mentioned earlier. And then maybe we'll charge even more for an employer to say, compare against my job listing. And they click a button, copy, paste their job. And then it takes all the transcriptions that the candidate had from the references plus their dimension scores and evaluates it or cross analyzes it against the job description. And then clicks a button and then you see a score. So later on, we might have that type of like candidate database for reference one to like speed up the interviewing process and maybe even get some special candidates in for employers. So that is why we wanted to make sure that we didn't want to have the same candidate having multiple candidate IDs, because eventually we might go on to the other side of things and offer a free product for candidates. So hopefully that makes sense. Again, you gotta process this stuff. And I'm doing it in real time, but luckily I didn't record a video yesterday, so that gave me a lot of time to kind of parse through how this would actually work as a real business case. So on the reporting side of things, anything new here? So there are also things that you want to pay attention to because we're going to get into the user billing like lower down in a second. But as you're going through and creating features that might be helpful, kind of in the back of your head, play out, okay, if I've hired people before, is what I did for reference one. If I've hired people before, I actually know what would be valuable, what wouldn't be valuable to me as a hiring manager, right? What wouldn't be valuable if I'm just kind of breezing through and hiring for interns or entry level positions, I might not need detailed reports that are going to be 750 words long, I might not need that information. However, if I'm going for a higher level role, I might want that information. So what I did is I want to have the user be able to select on a reporting page, get a detailed report. When a user clicks on that button, it'll basically use OpenAI's. I'll probably use the O1 model. O1 model to write a detailed report about the candidate's fit. This report can be up to 750 words and needs to cover everything about a candidate's fit when it comes to the company and the role itself. Okay, cool. So, and then I also had to create like a way to do that. So when the application is querying, I wanted there to be some type of like animation, but if they click get report on 5 people, I didn't want it to have like a huge, like full screen circle thought wheel. Um, so instead, I wanted to change, like add a text that says making progress that is in line with each one of the candidates. And then after that, it turns into report is ready. And when the report is ready, also the get detailed report button changes into a read report button. So we have two changes happening, one that's going to be animated and one that is not. And then we also need to make sure that it has permanence, because if we're going to charge for if we're going to charge for getting detailed reports, when someone makes when someone gets a detailed report on a candidate, on a candidate ID, when they should not have to ever do that again for that report, right? And so even if the candidate applies to a different job, it should be the same detailed report of their references. And so it needs to persist. But also on top of that, if you wanted to, let's say when we do organizations later and we have multiple hiring managers using the same database of people, we don't want there to be multiple get reports. And then the last part is, because we're using the O1 model on the OpenAI's API, once we get one detailed report for a candidate, it's attached to their unique candidate ID. So then in a future time, when a different employer has the same candidate later on and using reference one, then when they click that get detailed report, we'll still charge them the same, but it won't cost us the same because we've already run the report with a previous employer. So obviously the report will change a bit because different job descriptions, but if the candidate's going after the same job at multiple companies, like there won't be too much variation into what their references will say about actually being able to do the job. And so at that point, like we won't be charged at all because we would have already run the report through OpenAI's API. So, but we'll get to charge for every report that gets run. So, um, those are the types of things that you kind of have to think through as far as a business case, because that's just extra margin on top of things. Okay, where are we at on time? 7 minutes. Jeez. Okay, so I'm going to skip references. You'll see how I do that in a little bit. And then I'm going to go to billing. So the billing part is interesting. I'm going to skip user profiles for now as well. We'll get to that, but that is essentially like we want to split out user profiles and organizational profiles, because we know that different hiring managers might be working at the same company. So if you have a company that has like 5,000 employees and they're hiring 300 people a week, not a week, 300 people in a quarter or a month, we want different hiring managers to have different jobs that they upload, right? And so we're going to have organizational level profiles, and then we'll have user profiles. And so we'll have to figure out how to make that work at a later point, but that's not really necessary right now. So, but what is important is that you also have to go through the billing. And like I said before, you really need to start identifying in your head like how different features would be helpful and how different features would be necessary. To just run a reference should is necessary. So you don't want to hide that behind a paywall other than just like paying for it. And so the other things like getting a detailed report or seeing the composite score for all of the references, bulk adding candidates, like those things can kind of be added on later. And so that's what I've done here. So I have a pay as you go option for people who don't want to pay a subscription. And that's really important to me, because what if someone just wants to do one candidate? That's okay. They shouldn't have to pay for a subscription. So we're going to do a $4.99 per reference check. We'll probably raise that after a while, but I just want to see what we'll get charged from 11 Labs and OpenAI to figure out where our margin is going to be on that. We'll also have a free trial up to 2 candidates and 2 reference checks. That's because most people do 3 reference checks, and they do 3 reference checks per candidate for 3 candidates. So by putting the free trial right under that limit, if they want a third candidate to be on that reference check, like they'll have to pay an extra. So that's just kind of like it's a way for them to test the product without actually getting like too much value. After that, we have the first pay plan. We use ChatGPT to come up with the name. So we have Scout users, Prime users, and then we have unlimited access. And as you can see, Prime users get 50 detailed reports for free, and then they get charged per 51st report going on per month. Uh, I need to per month. Make sure that's in there. Uh-oh. Uh, per month. Another thing is like Scout users get some for a lesser price, and then any extra will be 3.99. That's to try and force them up to this plan, $199 per month, which still give them 100 reference checks. And then after that, it'll be $2.99 per check. We're really trying to get people to this enterprise deal so they know they're going to run a lot. We want to get this number from 199 per month to about 2,000, 4,500 per month. And so we're kind of limiting it, but we hope that people, if they're doing as 100 reference checks in a month, that's about 30 jobs. If they're doing more than that, it should kind of get to be unwieldy where we can do custom packages for them. So that's kind of the whole business case of what we're trying to build here. Hopefully that all makes sense. I've done this over a few videos. And so now we're about to move into Bolt, which is my favorite part, honestly. I know it seems like this is my favorite part, but really it's the building part that I really enjoy and can spend hours doing.